Good evening, guys. Warm welcome to the program. We are continuing with our previous episodes on warehousing and inventory management. So far, we have completed 10 episodes. So, if you are joining for this program for the first time, request you to visit our YouTube channel, watch all the previous episodes, then only you will have a continuity. This program will be useful either for a beginner or if you are already working in warehouse or supply chain management. It will upskill you as we are going to see all this episodes as per the global standard and benchmarking process. In this session, we are going to see a topic on resource management inside the warehouse. So we have seen various aspects of warehouse processes. Now you have to equip the warehouse with the right resources. Here we are talking about manpower, so that you are going to use these resources in most effective way. So that's what we are going to see in this session. Allow me to attach PPT for this session. So title for today's episode is resourcing a warehouse. So how to handle the warehouse in a most efficient way by properly utilizing the resources. So just before entering into the topic, let me briefly introduce myself. This is my Udemy profile. I have more than, in fact, right now 5,000 people enrolled for various supply chain programs. So if you are interested, you can just go into Udemy and check. I am available primarily in LinkedIn profile. I am searchable by the keyword supply chain master. Uh, Either you are welcome to connect or follow me in the LinkedIn. Coming to the topic, here we are going to see the operatives. It could be the manpower, equipment, consumable, general supplies, etc. Because if something is missing, the operation becomes less efficient. So there need to be some kind of a planning considering the amount of load expected on the warehouse. This may be useful if you are in a supervisory role or manager role in a warehouse function. Of course, you know the effects of inaccurate ordering of consumable can be dramatic. Example, running out of stretch warp or no label to print can be catastrophic. Imagine all the product is ready, it is picked, but some packaging material is not available. It is going to disturb entire supply chain process, and in fact, we are going to leave our customer in big trouble. Okay. So in the warehouse, we need to do some kind of a cycle study. Maybe in the manufacturing environment, if you are working in such organization, you know for every operation there is a cycle time fix. In fact, there is also overall end-to-end supply chain. Coming specific to warehouse, also there are various activities involved, starting from receiving till dispatch. So these item has to be captured. There should be a proper time study. How you are going to justify the manpower requirement? Whether you need 10 people or 100 people depends upon some kind of time study, as well as the kind of equipment you are going to use it to execute this work. So the unit measured may be a pallet, it can be a bin or even a truckload. It can be anything, but it has to be standardized. And example, work rate is the time taken to identify and collect a pallet, transport it and lift it to a storage slot, confirm the put away and return to the start location. So you know the time and motion study generally performed by industrial engineering team, but in the warehouse environment, it could be the warehouse supervisor or the manager who has to make this one time study, and you should know what is the capacity of the warehouse in terms of equipment as well as manpower. If this capacity is exceeded by the load, then you have to plan for the additional resources. But this process is slightly different from work study as it is driven by different consideration. Work study, we refer to the actual manufacturing environment. In warehousing, it could be slightly different. And we will also see the worker rates. Of course, you know there are no two warehouses are identical. Generally, these three methods are adopted. For example, synthesis, composite construction of productivity rates for an activity from components of each work element. Finally, we have to understand it's not only the manpower but also the equipment and also the nature of work performed is a complex activity here. Maybe some kind of a work study can be applied or some historical comparison should be made. If you are a supervisor and if you find there is some shortage of manpower or equipment, you need to do this study before approaching the management for approval. Sometimes comparison with supplier data for envisaged equipment will be useful, but not all the time. The one-time study has to be made by the executives. Points to consider when change in a warehouse or equipment. Of course, this is need not be only first time, one time. Maybe whenever you are changing the equipment or the layout, then the study has to be done once again. If the warehouse is significantly larger, performance may reduce as a result of longer travel distance. A change in equipment will also have an effect. So these kind of study may be done in the beginning when you are establishing the warehouse and its layout, or if you are taking any major change, then this work rate has to be established. Here you can see an image which is an example. I try to give the task breakdown. Here you can see we are analyzing for a particular task within the warehouse, for example, put away and daily volume. Here we are talking about the activity number of units, or it can be in the form of unit of measure. Here you can see this particular warehouse uses both pallets and cotton, so you need to have some unit of measure. Then we have the productivity standard, possibly for a shift or per hour, having known the capability of the worker and the equipment. We have to fix this based on the work rate or work study, and then you can calculate the number of hours required. Also, you can see material handling equipment is also mentioned, like reach truck or powered pallet truck and any other equipment. For example, a handled scanner is available. So each product or each zone or each activity, this type of activity has to be captured. Then only we can have an overview. So, in terms of work study, the effort needed to develop and interpret detailed information for smaller elements may not justify the end result. Example, 80% can be quantifiable. As you know, in the warehouse, there can be many non value added activity, but you may not be in a position to totally eliminate such activity. So this has to be kept in mind, especially in e-commerce. The unit being a single item, the picking and packing will account for a large amount of labor hours. Also, we need to consider the demand variation. Not all the time of a day or a week or a month is going to be loaded equally. Need to model variation in demand to understand how the resource requirement changes with the change in the demand. Of course, not only in a month or week, we have to also see the seasonal variation throughout the year. Okay, you can see a typical demand variation given in this image, but it could be different in your environment. So that's the necessity to study these variations. Then we have to go for the resource modeling. These are the consideration. For example, it could be a single standalone warehouse, incoming product received on pallets, side loaded vehicles and containers are loose loaded. So the activity could be different if you are receiving this item in a neatly packed pallet condition. If it is a loose item, then extra work will be involved. If you are receiving this item from the vendor as a loose item, you need to start with palletizing inside your warehouse. Okay. If your core business is in cotton or pallet pick, then the palletized dispatch could be a possibility. Many of the distribution center they receive the item either in a carton or a pallet and also receive order from the customer in the same unit of measure and it is dispatched as it is. But that may not be the case in all warehouses and distribution centers. So there could be some other additional support activities required. Let us see a sample resource model, especially if you are in a managerial situation in a warehouse, you need to understand. First, you have to capture all the process in the warehouse, like goods in, put away, retrieve, picking, packing, all that. Then each of the activity has to be clearly spelled out. You can see what kind of vehicle, the minute activity like offload pallet, inspect pallet, remedial work, or the container like this. Each of this, maybe if you are experienced in that environment, you know what kind of product you are going to get from your vendors. And daily volume, maybe we need to measure in the initial stages and find out how many pallets are coming in a day, and also find out the demand variation to map it. And you can see the unit of measure could be vehicles or pallets or bins or cases like it is mentioned. Of course, this study has to be done over a cycle, then only it will give accurate. Of course, you will have a productivity standard. This study will map what will be the efficient way of handling this and how many units can be done in a particular given hour or a shift. Or if you are assuming hours, then you need to map the hours required. And you can also see any material handling equipment or any support is required. Here you are seeing two different kind of volume. One is the average volume, which is for the any normal day, and also you have a column for peak daily volume. It happens sometimes that even during the shift, during the end of the shift, you get a large volume of load, and possibly second or third shift the load will be less. Same will be the case in case of a week. Possibly Monday and Friday will be overloaded, whereas in between days could be underloaded. So you need to capture both average and maximum load condition in this model. Then productivity standard for the peak also we need to the plan should be there for average volume as well as the peak volume. Maybe if you are very serious, we can also provide you a template for which you need to contact our executives, which you will get at the end of this session. So the activity profile can also be made in different format. For example, here you can see different day wise. What is the average and peak volume, and you can see day one, day two, day three, and this is essential if you want to find out the capacity of your warehouse. Otherwise, talking orally will not help. Then, whenever there is a cost reduction or any recession, then the manpower cut is going to immediately happen. So, as a supervisor, whether there is any directive from manager or not, you need to understand the capacity of your own warehouse so that you can justify the requirement. And you can also see the variation, like it could be weekly variation. Then you can see there is a low, average, and high. So possibly here you can have additional resources when the load is more, and other days maybe you can remove some part-time resources. But unless you capture this load, you are not going to get this. Of course, I have seen in the warehouse environment, it is not the same during even the same day or same week. It's going to vary, and we should be flexible. It's not only the question of handling peak load, but also when the load is not there, how you are going to slim up, how you are going to remove the resources and reduce the cost of operation. Okay, so resource modeling peaks and troughs of activity precipitate the changes. Sometimes additional resource may be required. Then, in that case, you may have to go for overtime or additional shift or temporary staff hire or even equipment hire. In the warehouse environment, maybe additional forklift or pallet trucks may be required that has to be planned. Insufficient load, sometimes this is where you need to tighten up. When there is no load, at least temporary staff, you need to disengage them in such case. There are also other factors like security, which is going to affect our stock accuracy. Possibly you also need clerical, administrative, and managerial staff, their system, canteen staff, security. It all depends upon how big the warehouse you are going to handle. Also, what kind of automation equipment you are having in that environment. All this is going to influence. As a manager of this warehouse, you need to have capacity planning for each of this. If there is any additional load is expected, then you have to mobilize the required resources. Here you can see a sample time allocation. Earlier we have seen in terms of capacity or load calculation. Here you have some idea about time calculation, allocation of hour, both in terms of average as well as peak for a particular day. You can see if you are operating in one shift, it is fine, but most of the warehouses are expected to work throughout the day, which means three shift will be there. So each of the activity in the warehouse, like goods in, put away, retrieve, case pick, marshalling, dispatch, and other, you need to summarize and value add. One, maybe we are doing a labeling or some additional packing or kitting, all that comes under here. So you have the time required or the load being put on this particular warehouse shift wise in case of both the average and peak load. Also, you need to account for the material handling equipment availability, like you can see how much time hand pallet truck or counterbalances. Like this, each one of this should be planned. Then only you can manage your operation in a much efficient way. Okay. This is a very good method of planning the resources inside the warehouse. You have to anticipate the demand, also the variation, and then get prepared for this in terms of both load as well as capacity available. In case you are expecting additional load, you should be equipped either in terms of manpower or the equipment required. Okay, so this is some kind of a brief introduction on this particular topic, and of course, we are going to continue further more session. And these topics are exclusive in YouTube because they are going to be available for a long time, but they will be free of cost for only a limited period of time. If you are watching free this program, we can also offer certificate subject to some condition, like you have to take a multiple choice test. Before that, maybe you have to subscribe to our channel, watch all the related videos, like and comment or ask question in those videos. and we will provide a e-certificate. Maybe if you are a fresher, you can use them for in your resume or in any job application. Of course, this we are going to provide at a very nominal price. If you are looking for a certificate, we are going to provide very nominal price. You are requested to contact us. Any questions, those who are watching live in the YouTube, you can chat in the comment. I'll be able to answer. So we provide specialized training both on all aspects of supply chain, logistic, and purchasing. And one of our leading program is on supply chain analytics. Also, we provide training, mock tests for global certification exams in supply chain like PIC mock test. You can visit these sites if you need any clarification or if you want to chat or talk to our executive. You are welcome to reach this WhatsApp numbers. Okay. If any one of you have any doubts, you can reach out to me. Now I am live. So I am also available for career guidance. If you are a fresher looking for a job in supply chain career, you can reach out to me. I will be in a position to guide. You are also welcome to visit my LinkedIn profile and check my experience and other certification. Thanks for watching. We will see in the next episode. Bye.